Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is this week's security news update. Um, in the alerts department, Synology is having a challenge. For those of you that use Synology network attached storage devices, there's a zero click, which is the worst kind. I mean, it's no user interaction required, remote code execution flaw that affects both this disk station and B station. Um, the vulnerability is in the Synology Photos module. So if you have that disabled, then you're safe. But if you have that enabled, then now would be a good time to patch. And it's probably a good time just to go do the patch anyway, because that way, should you turn on photos for some reason, you don't have to worry about it. Next, there is a scam going on. There's always scams going on. What can I tell you? Uh, there's a scam going on where people get an email saying that you have infringed on our copyright and we're going to sue you for $1 million. Well, it turns out they're not going to do that, but they want you to think that. What it is a way of getting you to install malware on your computer. It says, please take down the infringing content, and for your convenience, we've put that in this attachment that we've attached to this email. And of course, the attachment is malicious and it's complex how it works, but it works pretty elegantly. It's pretty amazing. So don't fall for that scam. And lastly, in the alerts, Mazda is the latest car to have the car hacked by way of its radio. These radios have way too much permissions, but eventually the car makers will figure that out because they constantly seem to be getting compromised. They don't call them radios anymore. Of course, they call them infotainment centers, but it's in their connectivity master unit. That's where the problem is. And Mazda says they are not going to fix it. It was software that was in use from 2014 to 2021. So if you have a slightly older Mazda, but still fully serviceable, it ain't gonna get fixed, and you're gonna be hackable forever as long as you own the car. Nice. In the software and hardware department, Microsoft, as they're wont to do in the fall, they are launched a new version of Windows Server called Server 2025. I think the most interesting, and there's all kinds of stuff in there. There's Hyper-V improvements and GPU integration and software-defined networking stuff. But I think the most exciting part about it is that hot patching is a thing. That means that you can patch without having to reboot. And for folks that are running critical servers, that's probably really compelling reason to go upgrade to 2025. So at this point, I think I would start looking at it. But, I'd certainly wait and see what the stability looks like. And next in the hardware department, you want some blazingly fast hardware. Turns out that AMD seems to be the new leader, at least for the moment, in their Ryzen 7 line, the 9800 family. It's supposedly 20% faster than the fastest Intel Core i9, which is the 14900, and even faster than the Core Ultra 9. And one user says that AMD just deleted Intel. Well, I don't think that's the case, but if you're looking for super fast hardware, the new AMD Ryzen 7 might be a thing you want to go look at. In the patches department, one more time, Cisco, they're the winner. They scored another perfect 10, and they've had enough of them. One more time, you don't have to have Cisco credentials, but let's say you want to be an admin on the box. Well, now you have a way, and it's through the management interface with a specially crafted HTTP request. There is a fix. But more importantly, the bug only affects their industrial grade equipment. So if you are running the standard commercial stuff, that won't affect you. But if you're running the industrial stuff, then that would be a great time. In the legal activities, this is third party risk, and it just seems to can't stop getting better. What can I tell you? there's a technology company that builds tracking capabilities, and it's used. One of the places it's used was DHL. The shipping giant was using it, and a convenience store, Nisso, is using it. But more importantly, there's a company called Serco that that does prisoner transport, and these prisoners wear ankle bracelets or whatever, and the vans have tracking in them, and the vans have a panic button, and apparently all of that got knocked offline. That was the story behind why DHL went sideways last week. And apparently Serco didn't bother to tell their drivers that the panic button wasn't working for a couple of days, but that's not, I would not be happy if I was one of their drivers for sure. But the problem is that this is third-party risk, and everybody's using third parties, and using third parties is not going to go away. But you need to understand the risk that you are buying into when you use third party. Next, in the world of AI, this is kind of cool. Google used AI. They love their acronyms. So they have a large language model called Big Sleep, which is part of Project Naptime, which is a collaboration between Google's Project Zero and DeepMind, their AI project. So you got enough acronyms there, hopefully. But anyway, all this stuff put together is still in testing. But they found their first vulnerability and it's in SQLite, that fuzzing missed. So that's pretty cool. And they're talking about that now. Not so much to bug. I mean, bugs happen all the time. I think the interesting part there is that they're using AI effectively, apparently, to find these bugs. In the breaches department, boy, I don't know what to do about this. So hackers breached Nokia. That part, is a dog bites man kind of story. They stole source code, and the hacker is Intel Broker, who has a long reputation of very sophisticated, effective hacks. But they also stole SSH keys and source code and RSA keys and Bitbucket logins and webhooks and oh yeah, hard-coded credentials. Good job, Nokia. Hard-coded credentials. So that's a pretty much we own you kind of thing at this point. I'm sure the folks at Nokia are trying to figure out how much damage was done. But this is just a word to the wise. You got to look at code, make sure that you are not hard-coding credentials in there, because, at least if you get hacked and they're not hard-coded, you can change them. When they're hard-coded, the only thing you can do is replace the software and hope your users replace their software. And if the software is something that gets combined into some other piece of software, good luck in getting it changed. So we're still dealing with some of that. Also in the hacks department, Western Sydney University, I know that's not close to you, in Australia, suffered their third cyber attack of the year. My guess is the first two were in May and July. They didn't really extract the hacker effectively, and that's why we're seeing this. I'm guessing the hackers are in there this entire time, but they owned all of the student data, everything. It's totally compromised. And oh yeah, how'd they get in? They compromised an IT admin. They just fished him or didn't say who it was, and got their credentials, and the rest, as they say, is history. They got into their data warehouse and into their core systems because it was an IT person, and who else are you going to try to socially engineer but an IT person? And next, going back to Australia, this is kind of interesting. I'm not sure that the Australian kids are terribly happy. Australia is proposing the first in the world a law regarding kids' use of social media. And what this bill is saying, assuming it gets passed, who knows, is that kids under 16 can't be on social media, period, end of conversation, no exceptions. And the interesting thing is they're putting the onus on the social media companies, and the fine is $1 million, which is not a lot of money. Because I haven't looked at the bill, I don't know whether that's $1 million per person that you let in, or $1 million per event, or whatever. But so it's not going to cost you a fortune. It's not like GDPR, where it's 4% or 6% or 8%, like some of these different European regulations of your revenue. But still, $1 million here, $1 million there, adds up. So If you think your kids are using too much social media, maybe now is the time to move to Australia. Amongst the many other things we're dealing with and getting ready for 2025, more state privacy laws are coming into effect. And so, if those are things that affect you, now is a good time to figure out what you're going to do. And part of it is a function of what your customers expect. And also part of it is what your, um, partners expect. So, if you're doing work, you're a subcontractor for the XYZ company. I'm not going to pick a name, but some Fortune 100 company, and they say, you got to comply with all these privacy laws because we do. Get ready to do that or lose that business. Speaking of privacy laws, Texas is becoming kind of the enforcement playground of privacy laws, and they have a number of laws that affect different things, biometrics and child protection and stuff. And they're starting to sue people. So if you have customers in Texas, now would be a good time to take a refresher course on what's going on there. And with all this privacy stuff, we'll be happy to help you. So just let us know if you need help. And also with this, hacking of the IT users, again, if you're not doing penetration testing, if you're not doing social engineering, you need to be doing that. Social engineering testing. The last is the news bites. Russia, court in Russia fined Google 2 undecillion rubles, which is like more than the GDP of the world or something. They did that because Google blocked a couple of their TV stations from YouTube. I'm surprised that Google is still operating in Russia, but money talks. What can I tell you? The Pentagon wants a 17-year prison sentence for the former Massachusetts National Guards person who leaked classified information on Discord. They were hoping for an 11-year sentence. So, but either one of them, he's going to be in jail for quite a while. Iran, we're seeing more information on their cyber playbook that includes AI, fake hosting accounts, and psychological warfare. So that's kind of interesting. While the CFPB starts looking at regulating data brokers, the cops are worried that they're not going to be able to go to these data brokers and buy your information. That offends them. So they asked the CFPB for special dispensation. Whether the CFPB is inclined to do that or not is unclear. But even if they say no now, they likely will under the next administration come January. So they're probably protected. And finally, there's a lot of people and a lot of companies out there that sell wireless burglar alarm systems. And the reality is, because they're wireless, they're relatively easy to jam. And we're seeing some attacks based on burglars jamming Wi-Fi based alarm systems. I know they're cheap to install and they do give you a level of prevention, but they're just not very secure. So if you have anything that is needs to be, highly secure, do not use wireless systems. So that's all I have for now. If you have questions, as always, reach out to us. And otherwise, until next time, stay safe. Thanks for listening.